What's going on, everyone? In today's video, we're going to go over some of my worst book buys ever. And yes, I did get pearly whites. I did get some braces. So I know I look like I'm back in high school, but I do want to fix my teeth, and you're just gonna have to deal with it. So I'm gonna have them for 2 years, but it's all good. The content isn't gonna change. Maybe my voice sounds a little different, but hey, part of the game. And yeah, it's not stopping me from buying books and putting books on Amazon. So with that said, let's get right into it. We're gonna look at some of the books that I bought over the last couple years that have turned out to be absolutely terrible buys. And the point of this video is that not every book that you buy, or at least that I buy, is profitable. Now, the overwhelming majority of them are actually profitable, but some of them aren't. And I think there's some lessons to be learned in those. So let's get right into it. All right, so the first book that we're gonna look at over here is a Sueño book. So this is a Spanish book that I bought multiple times. I want to say I've probably bought well over 10 copies of this book. And one of the first lessons for you to learn is, especially when you're new, don't go too deep on one book, meaning don't spend all your capital on buying a whole bunch of copies of just one book, because you can see how you could get burned. So yeah, you can see that last time I purchased this was June 1st of 2018, which is actually a long time ago. Now remember, I've been doing online book arbitrage for a while. I've been doing this since 2016, 2017. So I've had plenty of mistakes, plenty of years where I've made bad buys. This happened to be one of those bad buys. So if we go down to the Cuba chart, so June 1st, 2018 was the last time we bought this. So you can see, we had to go quite a ways back in the Cuba chart to actually see what that looks like. So let's go ahead and zoom in to what would be right around June 2018, right around this time period here. And one thing you'll notice is that the lowest use price of it was right around 20 bucks. So this is when I picked up multiple copies. And the reason why I did so was because coming up in that year, right, it was June, coming up a little bit later, a couple months, would be textbook season. It'd be August, September, when this book should be popping off. You can see that in the September of the previous year, that this book inflated in price to well over $100. And I actually did sell this book a few times before for over 100 bucks. So I was like, you know what? I felt super confident. I've sold this book before during textbook season for well over 100. I was able to pick up like 10 plus copies for right around 20 bucks. And yeah, let's see what actually ended up happening that September. So, September 2018 rolls around and actually nothing really happened. I mean, obviously the sales rank improved. You actually do see sales rank looks really good, but the use price didn't inflate at all. So that means not only did I not sell my copies, but the price didn't even really go up at all. And you can see since then, this book has just completely flatlined. And the lesson here being, don't spend so much money on just one copy of one book, because there's so many books out there that are great flips. And specifically with textbooks, you got to be careful, because there could be a newer edition available. What's interesting is that I don't even think there is a newer edition of this book available. It's just for whatever reason, maybe just the supply just vastly exceeded the demand for this book. But you can see basically it's worth right around $2. So almost every single copy that I bought, it was like 10 plus copies. I just didn't even end up selling. A couple of them I was able to sell for like $15 to $20 at the buy box when I got it. But yeah, that's a book I lost well over $100, if not up to $200 on. All right, the second book that we're going to look at is called Calculus for AP. This is a book that has an amazing sales rank. I'm pretty sure that this is going to be a high school book, right? It's for AP, Advanced Placement. What we do is, if we come down to the Cuba chart, one thing that you'll notice this year, price of this book has been right around like the, right around like the $10 to $15 range. And when I picked this book up, I picked up multiple copies. I think I picked up 15 plus copies. I actually bought it from someone locally, of somebody who apparently, from the local college where I was at, apparently had got a whole bunch of books from his high school friends, and was gonna sell them online, and he agreed to sell them to me on eBay. So I think I picked up like 15 copies. And at the time when I picked up these copies, it was last year, so this would have been in 2022, and I think it was going to be, February of 2022. And at that time, the lowest use price was right around 60 bucks on Amazon. You can actually see that the previous, August textbook season, this book had gone up to 160 bucks. So I was able to pick up the copies for right around like 30 bucks each. So basically able to pick them up at half the value. And I picked up again multiple copies. I think I want to say around 15. But one thing that you'll notice, and kind of one of the lessons I learned from buying this book, is every single textbook season, the author count kind of increased beyond what it had in the past. And the idea there being, over time, while there's still a lot of demand for this book, the supply is starting to exceed the demand. You can see how at the end of every single textbook season, or after we have the author count all the way down to basically zero, it then recovers to a point that's higher than it was in the past, and you're starting to see an overall trend upward which means that, this price is going to tank. So what ended up happening is that I was planning to sell these in the next August textbook season, which would have been, only like five or so months, 4 or 5 months after I purchased them. But you'll actually see that during that July, August textbook season, the price just kind of eroded. It went from $60 all the way down to 40 and just kind of kept nosediving down. I was actually able to sell a few of the copies, but I still have some copies today. And yeah, this is another book that I'm gonna lose on. And again, one of the reasons why I'm gonna lose on is because I went too deep on it. So, another lesson there is make sure you're really paying attention to offer count over time. At the end of every textbook cycle or textbook season, if the offer count is continuing to grow from the previous textbook season, that's usually not a good sign. All right, the third book that we're gonna look at that actually just completely be terrible on was an exam course set. I'm not even exactly sure what it is, but you can see here it's all-in-one a PMP exam prep kit based on PMI's PMP exam content outline test prep. So when you come down here to the Keeper chart, you'll notice that this thing is selling really well for over $130. Great sales rank, very consistent sales, but what you'll also notice is that there's almost an identical listing, or what appears to be an identical listing, that is not anywhere near the same selling price. You can see that this is right around $25 with a lot worse sales rank, not as many sales rank drops as the other one. And you can see recently this has kind of gotten down to 10 or $11. So obviously the difference between both of these sets is massive in terms of price. And unfortunately, I think I picked up like 6 copies of this on eBay, thinking that it was this one here with this great, amazing sales rank where it's selling for over 130, but in reality, it was actually this one. And the lesson to be learned here is that you gotta really make sure when it comes to buying any product that you're matching exactly what it is in front of you to what you think it is that you're selling. And I'm still to this day not even really sure what the difference is. All I know is that when you scan the UPC, what I bought was this listing here, which is terrible in comparison to what I thought I was going to buy, which is this listing. So basically I lost a significant amount of money on this because most of these copies I'm only able to sell for $15 or so if they're even going to sell. And what Amazon can use, basically going to make very little off that. So this was another thing that I probably lost well over $100 on. So you guys are probably gonna start to think, Joji, do you make any money? Yeah, I do make tons of money. I sell a significant number of books for a profit. Again, I just want to try to show you some of the books that I have not done so well with because, maybe it can help you guys out there. All right, this next book that we're going to look at has happened to me over the thing that lost me money here has happened to me multiple times, and that is not checking to make sure that the books I was buying, whether or not I can sell them or not. And so here's an example. This is called Qualitative Inquiry and Research Design. I bought this in April 9, 2022. So we're just going down the Keeper chart. Let's go ahead and expand the data. Let's look at 2022. This would have been right around here. So April would have been right around the time where this got down to about $4 or $5 plus a little bit of shipping. This is a book that can easily sell for 30 to 40, maybe even a little bit more in the buy box use price. But one thing that I did not realize when I bought this was that I'm actually restricted. It says eligible no, which means I can't even sell this book. And yeah, I ended up buying, I think, a couple copies. I ended up, not being able to sell them. So I ended up just selling them to a buyback company for a loss. And I bought them, I think, for like $7 or $8 all in, and had to sell them to a buyback company for like $2 or $3 each, and lost money because I simply just didn't check whether or not I can sell them. So make sure when you're buying books that you actually can sell them before you end up buying them. All right, this next book that we lost money on is really unfortunate because I don't really feel like it wasn't my fault, but because I wasn't super organized at the time, it really is my fault, and I lost money on it as a result. Basically, I bought a 2-volume set, and here it is right here, Clinical Neuroradiology, the ESNR textbook, first edition, 2019 edition. Bought this on May 26th of 2022. Let's go down the Keeper chart. Let's just see why I bought this. So, basically I bought this right when there was this kind of extensive repricing war where basically the price of this 2-volume set got all the way down to about $120. And I was, I picked up a copy because I had seen that this 2-volume set had sold up to $600, and that 6 months before was selling for $300 somewhat consistently. And you can actually see that after I bought it, the price did go back up to about $350. The problem is I bought 2 copies of this, and it turns out that instead of receiving 2-volume sets, meaning instead of receiving 4 books. I just received 2 books, and it happened to be not even enough to make one set. I think it was 2 volume 1s instead of, a volume 1 and a volume 2 and another volume 1 and volume 2. And because I wasn't super organized at the time with my prep center, I didn't realize that I kind of got scammed, I feel like, from the seller. I wasn't really able to return them either, because by the time I realized this, it was well past the 30-day return window. So basically, I'm trying to sell 2 volume 1s on eBay, I believe, for significantly less than what I ended up buying this for. So this was actually a pretty massive hit. Now, again, if I was able to have both of the volumes, like, this is something that's still selling really well. Like, today the price is still like $280 and it's selling very well. So potentially I could maybe salvage it by finding volume 2 out there. But yeah, make sure that the books that you're buying, if they are a set, that they come with everything. If they're not, make sure you return it. Otherwise you're gonna be stupid like me and you're gonna lose money. All right, this next book that we're gonna look at is an avionics book. This is a book that I thought would do really well. I only picked up a couple copies of this, so at the end of the day, it wasn't too bad. I did lose money on it for sure, but let's look at the keep chart and figure out why I lost money. So here's the book here. You can see I bought this on June 7th, 2022, which, by the way, June 7th is my birthday. So I felt lucky buying this book, but it didn't turn out to be great. I think I spent around 45 bucks on this book. You can actually see that the lowest price is right around 45 bucks. So, I think I already got rid of my copies. But if we scroll down the keeper chart here back in June of the previous year, we can actually see that when I bought this, the price was, right around 40 bucks. And all of that historical data before I bought it was showing sales range drops north of 120, even up to the 140, even up to the $250 range. So I was like, all right, I think I'm definitely getting an undervalued book here. It turns out though that since buying that book, offer count kind of increased a little bit beyond what it had before. So you can actually see how this offer count started increasing. Went from right around 10 or 11 all the way up to about 25. So the number of sellers doubled. The additional supply basically just made it so that people were not willing to spend so much money on this, because there's just too much supply out there, not enough demand for this book. So basically this book ended up bottoming out that same year for less than $10, and it was just a bad buy, right? So it's something that turned out to kind of be a little bit unlucky. You can see that since then it has recovered and it's been selling right around 25 bucks. Buy box price has been a little bit higher than that, right around $42. But yeah, this is a book that I bought a couple copies of that basically ended up selling it for what I bought it for. And so after all said and done, I think I spent 40 bucks. I received a paycheck back from Amazon for about 20 bucks. So ended up losing about $20 per book. So obviously not a great buy there, but let's look at a couple more. All right, so this next copy is called Essentials of Immigration Law 4th edition. We bought this on March 9th. I bought multiple copies of this as well. And you'll notice that one of the themes here is that buying multiple copies of a book is more risky, because when something or if something goes wrong, it goes wrong with every single one of those copies. So if you are starting out with online book arbitrage, I would really highly recommend probably sticking to under 3 copies per book. As you get more experience and you start realizing some of these things, I've started to realize, then you can become maybe a little bit more adventurous as you have the capital to do so. But I think honestly, there's so many profitable books out there that you could literally buy quantity 1 of every single book and still run out of money. But with that said, let's take a look at this book. So I bought this on March 9th of 2022. And if we look at March 9th, 2022, you can see that when I had picked up a couple copies, there was this massive repricing war. Basically, the price went from $117, went all the way down here to about I think maybe even less than that. I think $14 plus shipping. So I picked up a couple copies because I noticed that this book definitely has some textbook seasonality. In August, you can see how offer count went from 14 all the way down to about 2, and you can see how the price inflated to north of 50, 60, and then upwards of 100. So I felt like I was buying a few copies at a really undervalued price. Now the price of this book did go back up, but the problem was this book really stopped selling as much as it had in the past. You can see that in the past, sales rank of this book was great, right? It was selling much more frequently, and then all of a sudden it kind of just didn't really sell much. So I had all these copies and just not enough people out there willing to buy them. So I think I was able to sell 1 or 2 copies at a pretty high price and make some good money on it, which actually kind of negated the rest of the books that end up losing money on. But you can see, after this price eroded from $50, it got all the way down to about 10, and it kind of has hung out there for a while. Recently, it's actually jumped up in price back to $34 or so. But yeah, I think I picked up 5 copies of this. I was able to sell, I think, 2 for over $100 in the beginning. And so I basically made all my money back and made some money. But the other 3 copies, I ended up having to sell at a loss. I mean, I'm lucky I ended up walking away still making a little bit of money. But yeah, sometimes buying too many copies, especially when the sales rank doesn't justify it, is where you can go wrong. And this was one example where during that repricing where I should have only bought maybe 2 copies, because if I'd only bought 2 copies, it would have worked out a lot better. All right, the final book that we're going to look at is a tort law book, and this is a casebook series book. Be very careful with the casebook series books, because when they come out new editions, a lot of times the price of those books can erode quickly. But this was a book that I actually snagged a couple copies of for a absolutely fantastic deal. The problem, however, was once again I didn't check to make sure I was ungated. So this was a book that I was gated on, so even though I got it at a great price, I had to actually end up selling it back to a buyback company for a loss. So let me show you what I mean. So here it is. I bought this on April 23rd, 2022. We scroll down the Keep It chart. Here's 2022. Here is actually April. You can see I bought this with Keep It deals. The price of this dropped from $126 all the way down to $12.43. So I bought a couple copies of these, and you can see that as that next textbook season rolled around, this got up to basically $300 in used condition, which is actually quite insane. And I wasn't able to sell them because you can see up here in seller ramp it says, "Are you eligible to sell it?" I am not eligible to sell it, so I couldn't even sell this. I think I ended up selling them back to a buyback company. Let's actually see how much I paid for each individual book. All right, so I don't know what I was thinking. I actually paid way more than what I thought. It wasn't $13, $79. That makes sense. So I paid significantly more. I paid around $80 for this book. Again, that would have been an amazing deal. Bought it for 80, flip it for 300. But the problem again was I was restricted, so I couldn't sell it. So I had to end up selling this to a buyback company. And I want to say I probably sold it for right around like 50 to 60 bucks. I ended up losing like 25 bucks per copy. I think I only bought 2 copies there. So again, just another PSA, make sure you actually are ungated in the item before you source it. And that's one of the reasons why I really like using Seller Ramp here, is because Seller Ramp tells you whether or not you're eligible to sell it. If you want to support the channel, link down below in the description. There's a whole bunch of other great features with Seller Ramp. By the way, you don't need Seller Ramp to see that. You can manually check it on Amazon Seller Central. And I think there's also some free plugins and free extensions that you can download that will show you that as well. So you don't need Seller Ramp for that. It's just a nice feature of it. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys today. I hope you realize that not every book that even I buy is profitable. You'll notice that a lot of the examples in this video come from 2022. That's because I've made many more mistakes back then versus now, because I'm starting to do online book arbitrage much more seriously now. I'm starting to learn from a lot of my mistakes. And again, I've been flipping books since 2016 and doing online book arbitrage. So I've made plenty of mistakes, but the good news is that I'm still pretty wildly profitable, even though a lot of the books, not a lot, but even though a significant portion of the books do end up maybe not selling very well, maybe for barely selling for a profit, or maybe selling for a little bit less than break even. But yeah, that's just the reality of this. Hope you really enjoyed it, and I'll see you all on the next one. Goodbye.